social change organization based out of Atlanta, Georgia. And we were called out in the world to really work with those that are infected, affected, and impacted by HIV and AIDS, especially within the faith-based community. I want to thank you all for inviting me here and to share this session. So I really want to get folks re-engaged in the fight on HIV and AIDS, especially from the faith-based perspective. I think it's important, especially for those of us that are in the South, if we are really going to have a campaign to end AIDS, it has to include our spiritual communities. I want to just give honor to the shepherd of this house, Dr. Marcus, and then of course acknowledge my own pastor, E. Dewey Smith from Greater Travelers Rest, the House of Hope out of Decatur, Georgia. So then again, I've come and I just want to go ahead and talk to you very briefly, and I love the introduction. I thank Greg and Ruth for being so kind in the words that they said, but I do come with a warning. I got to give out a disclaimer. Said because I have to tell you I'm not here to offend anyone. I just want to help us to overcome. So is that all right with everybody? I'm not offended by anything that I said today. And I realize that the government is still shut down. I realize that there was a shooting at the Capitol the other day. I realize that there has been a lot of glitches with the Obamacare rollout. So, but I believe that there's still a word from the Lord, especially where it comes around HIV and AIDS. So now, Greg said that I was a pastor, and I don't have my own church. I'm actually a minister, but I've been labeled a spreacher, meaning that I speak and I preach. I came to speak, but I may wind up preaching by the end of this thing. So y'all, again, just forgive me. But what we're going to talk about real briefly is HIV and AIDS, social justice, and the human factor behind the immunodeficiency virus. And to do that, to really stay within the context of what I was asked to do this afternoon, I want you to, if anybody has a Bible, just to turn to the book of Baum. The book of Baum. Y'all got that?
What book?
The book of Baum. Baum, B-A-U-M, book of Baum. You don't have that book. So it seems that I have already stumped the faith elite and the biblical scholars in the room. Well, my brother, the book of Baum is not going to be found in the Old Testament. It's not going to be in the New Testament. It's not going to be in the Veda. It's not going to be in the Talmud. It's not going to be in the Quran. It's no theological fad. It's nothing that I brought up with me from Atlanta. So because I'm simply talking about Frank L. Baum, the creator and the author of The Wizard of Oz. Y'all are familiar with the story around The Wizard of Oz. Let's see, it was systematic theology from this 1939 classic that just so happens to be on the cover of Life magazine this month, celebrating 75 years. Do you all remember the story?
Yes.
It was Dorothy and Toto that got swept up to the land of Oz by the cyclone. And she meets these characters by trying to get to the Emerald City, so to see the great wizard in an effort to get back to Kansas. Well, in my illustration, Dorothy is a 34-year-old African-American church-going woman.
Wow.
She sings in the choir, serves on the usher board. She has 2 kids. They both attend Bible study and youth church. And I'm not going to say that Dorothy was a all-the-time tither, but any time that she had, she gave. And when the Lord blessed her with a little bit extra, she gave that as well. But unfortunately, Dorothy was hit with the cyclone of life, and received a diagnosis of HIV. And if we asked anyone that has HIV, they'll tell you that when you hear the words, your test has come back positive for HIV, it's like getting swept up, just like in the story. And when the whirlwind stops, you find yourself all alone in a strange and far-off land. Everything you knew or thought you knew is gone. It's because of this human immunodeficiency virus, an F5 storm where it's inconceivable damage. No one to turn to, your sunshiny day is now a dark and desolate place filled with despair. And when you do get your bearings after depression, fear, shame, and all sorts of thoughts have come into your head, most of us would think like Dorothy would think, if I could just get home. Then these little people, normally other people with HIV, run to you because you're newly diagnosed and tell you that if you just get to the land of Oz, the wizard can take care of all your problems. And most of us being in a strange land would do exactly what Dorothy would do. would go ahead and head out to the land of Oz. Y'all remember, come on and ease on down. Ease on down the road. Don't let nothing be a load, but ease on down the road. Now, of course, for this illustration, we're going to follow the red ribbon. So that is now extended for 32 plus years as we journey into the land of Oz. Now, normally when I would speak, the land of Oz would be an ASO or a CBO. Could be a church or even a local hospital, depending on where you're from. But if we can just get there, the wizard is going to take care of everything that we need. So what was the first character that Dorothy met on her way to Oz? The Scarecrow. You remember the story. And the Scarecrow needed what? Brain. Needed a brain. Well, y'all, I've come up here from Atlanta to tell you that after 32 years, isn't it funny that folks still have no knowledge around HIV? A whole bunch of scarecrows walking around with no knowledge after 32 years of HIV. Still think it's a gay white disease. Still think they can catch it off the toilet seats. Think that they can get it if they touch you or drink behind you or eat behind you. Believe that, well, if I do get it, it'll be the magic effect. I'll just take a pill and be cured. And then there's even some folks that are infected that don't even know what fluids transmit HIV, how it's spread, or how they even put themselves at risk. They go to all the conferences and the educational forums, y'all know them, you see them all the time, so that they still have no true knowledge. 58,000 infected last year, 50% not even knowing it. Multiply it by 2, 116,000, higher than some cases there in West Africa. 14% of the population, 76% of disease, but 100% of most black congregations. That's right. Nearly half reported as MSM, the other half African American women, which far too long have been the backbone of the community, family, and the churches. And then there's the last, the least, the lost, and the left out in the HIV landscape. And that's the number of heterosexual men that go undetected, uncounted, undiagnosed, because the stigma that's attached to the disease, unfortunately, they go untreated. Some right now in the room more concerned about the half being MSM than the 76% being African American. Right. Based on the statistics, the new face of HIV is really blackface. And appears to change every 9 minutes. The Southeast, the epicenter of the pandemic. I don't know about Virginia, but I know in Georgia, number 4, up from number 11 in the last 4 years. Number 2 for syphilis, top 10 for chlamydia and gonorrhea, sex trafficking, teen prostitution, child sexploitation, pregnancies, abortion, incest, molestation, all in the Bible Belt. Took prayer out of school, and now girls 6th, 7th, and 8th grade have pregnancy packs. That's where they join up and say that they want to get pregnant before the 8th grade. 38,000 date rapes reported amongst teens each year. But yet, we can't get folks in school nor churches to talk about comprehensive sex education. Why? Because we as leaders are scared to talk about the S word. Well, I always tell folks, if you're uncomfortable talking to teens, why don't you talk to our mothers? See, Deacon John can now pop a pill and be ye ready, steadfast and unmovable in just a quick second. And we now find that plus 50 is the age group most watched for the rise of HIV. And that's I try to tell folks just the conversation alone could reduce the numbers drastically. But let me not digress, because we're just going to take the scarecrows with us as we journey on the Oz. Now, who was the second character that Dorothy and now the Scarecrow? Tin Man. The Tin Man. Yeah, y'all good. And what did the Tin Man need?
He needed a heart.
He needed a heart. But folk, ain't it funny how 32 years later, folks still have no heart for people with HIV.
That's right. That's right.
Ain't no compassion even coming out of the church for people with HIV. Got folks in pulpits, politics, and positions of power that spew their fears, discriminate and perpetuate the stigmas around HIV and AIDS. They find and blame populations, alternative lifestyles for the spread of the disease. Oprah and the Down Low show she did. We make HIV a moral issue versus a public health or a social justice issue, like Tyler does in his movies when he refers to HIV as a sinner's disease. I feel that it's harder to identify somebody with HIV than it is to find somebody obese, a smoker, a drinker, or someone with another co-infection. 14 out of 16 health disparities are ravaging our community, yet we don't put the same pressure to get tested on those. Fear, stigma, discrimination hinders testing. It hinders treatment. It hinders prevention. So it is with passion that we must learn as a faith-based community to reach out to those at risk and not be so pious in thinking that we ourselves are not at risk. Whether male, female, gay, straight, married, single, black, white, young, or old, HIV is no respecter of persons.
That's right.
And sometimes as Christians, we forget to respect persons with HIV. But I'm glad to tell you today that God sees the human factor behind the human immunodeficiency virus. He looks past our faults and he sees our needs. He looks past the sinner, the drug addict, the prostitute, or the promiscuous. And he sees a son, a daughter, a mother, a father, a brother, a son, and even an auntie. I always tell folk that yet by the grace of God, they'll go out.
That's right.
So don't judge me, for judgment shall come on yourself. But see, with churches, we can't be so busy saving souls if we're not willing to save a life.
That's right.
But again, Grant, I've digressed. Because we just got to get to the land of islands, y'all. Who was the third character?
The lion.
The lion. The lion. And what did the lion need?
Courage.
The lion needed courage. Well, folks, 32 years later, folks ain't got no courage. Folks ain't really trying to do no advocacy or activism around the issues no more, especially where HIV is concerned. We ain't hearing much from Al Sharpton. Ain't heard a thing from Jesse Jackson. I'm part of the HIV and Faith Advisory Board with the NAACP, and we put out a book, but it's just a book. The mega preachers, they ain't talking about it. Politicians, principals, parents, nothing. But I remind them that where one is infected, then we are all impacted. Nobody has the courage to start an HIV movement anymore. Early AIDS activists in San Francisco got tired of seeing their friends die, and they started a movement. Occupy Wall Street got tired of the mess on Wall Street, and they started a movement. The Tea Party got tired of what other Republicans were doing, and they started a movement. See, movements move. And if we don't act now, we're going to have to react later. Let me see if I can go ahead and break it down on a little simpler terms. Everybody is aware that the government is officially shut down. Yes. Some want to blame the president and the White House. Others want to blame the Republicans, and others want to blame the Democrats. Well, I'm here to tell you that the government did not shut down because any of those three factors. The government shut down because we, the people, shut down. And we shut up. I'll say that again, because that sort of went over somebody's head. The government shutdown is because we, the people, shut up and shut down. They've always been against the president, but we haven't always been for the president. Y'all remember when he first got elected? We had our t-shirts on, and Obama the first black president, and we ran to the art store and hung him and Michelle's picture over our fireplace, and oh yeah, we were excited that we had him in the White House. But then 2 years later, the conversation shifted on who was greater, LeBron or Jordan. 4 years after that, Romney almost slipped in. Upset some what he said about the 1%, but not that much, because if we were that upset, we'd have a Democratic Congress, House, Senate floor, and the White House. We were only a little bit upset because some of us didn't get up and vote.
Wow.
Let me go ahead and make it a little, I'm going to make it just a little bit more plain. Where's George Zimmerman today?
Back where he belongs.
Exactly. We don't know. But see, 2 months ago, oh, George Zimmerman, he went to the bathroom. George Zimmerman just got a glass of water. George Zimmerman, what happened, people? See, we lack concerted and ongoing advocacy and activism for sustained change of systems. I'll make it even more plain for some in the room. You notice how when the doctor gives you 14 days of medication for whatever you're ailing, We stop taking it once we feel better. Social justice and HIV is a hard pill to swallow. And that's why most of our churches only take it in February, March, June, and December. February for National Black Awareness Month, March for National Week of Prayer, June for National HIV Testing Day, and December they only take it for World AIDS Day. But yet for the month of October we take the pink pill all month long. My brothers and my sisters, social justice and social justice ministry is rooted in the teachings of Jesus. It's a sustained commitment to create a society based on equality and fairness for all people. Politically, there's no political pressure being applied to end HIV and AIDS. Political pressure was applied to get the national HIV/AIDS strategy, yes, but we needed more political pressure applied to get adequate funding. We needed more funding for global AIDS initiatives. No one's teaching our kids in school about comprehensive sex education, but yet most of us have children in school that is not learning about comprehensive sex education. I went to a college just a couple of weeks ago and they had said that their freshman year, when they have that freshman class come in, that's when they diagnose most teens with HIV and STDs. I thought that was interesting because they would rather prevent it, rather treat it than prevent it. We don't want to go into the high schools or even in the elementary schools. We'll just wait and see if they enroll in college, and then we'll get our numbers up freshman year. Too many scared crows. Too many scared crows. Comprehensive sex education doesn't lead to more promiscuity. It leads to better choices. And education reduces the fear, thus reducing high incidence in the number. Economics, black folks ain't got no jobs. But yet we still smoke weed, drink alcohol, and we have recreational sex. And all of that leads to poorer choices. So are you saying, preacher, that if we had more jobs, there'd be less HIV? That's a thought for you today. We make up 76% of the disease, but our communities, our churches, and our black CBOs don't get 7.6% of the money. But yet we're asked to do 760% of the work in our community. John Martin, Gilead CEO, $80 a pill, $28.5 per year, made $117 million last year. But yet Virginia just got rid of their ADAP wait list not too long ago. All of these factors impact one's quality of life, especially our health equality, and being black is just dangerous to your health. But see, HIV is a side effect, not really the disease. It's a side effect of what's really going on in our schools, our churches, our communities, our homes, and in our relationships. So I want to ask you if you would stand your ground that HIV is a social justice imperative. If we stand our ground in the midst of budget cuts, if we stand our ground on the argument on spending limits, if we stand our ground on debt ceilings, then maybe we can get Ryan White reauthorized, or maybe we can get PEPFAR reauthorized, or maybe we can get quality housing and maybe access to affordable medications and eliminate ADAP wait lists and have access to quality care and treatment. Wow, I've digressed. We got Dorothy, we got the Scarecrow, we got the Tin Man, and we got the Lion. And finally, folks, we done arrived in the land of Oz. Waiting to see the wizard. Because if we could just see the wizard, we were promised that they would take care of everything that we need. I need to get home. I need knowledge. I need a heart. And I need advocacy and activism. And what happened when Dorothy and her crew got to the land of Oz? Just like in the story. Behind the curtain, it was all big talk. Behind closed doors, we got a lot of political posturing and plagiarizing data to meet grant quotas. A lot of money moving around. Right now in Atlanta, $55 million is just off the table. Fancy statewide dinners disguised as policy dinners, but still no real results. Folks, busy work versus busy working. All smoke and mirrors while folks with HIV fend for themselves after 5 on weekends and during the holidays. And just like in the story, Oz requires the lost and the displaced seeking knowledge and wanting to learn something before providing them anything. Case managers in Atlanta, if you ask them for help, they want you to go get them lunch.
Oh.
I'm just saying. Nobody gonna tell on me, are they? But help me understand that how you can be in a fight for 20 years of a 30-year fight and we ain't won yet. Programs, policy, protocol, and personnel are still the same. Bad attitudes and worse aptitudes. How can we fight a fight when there is no real sense of urgency? Calls being placed on Monday, returned on Wednesday, followed up on Friday, not resolved to the following Tuesday, which is discussed in Thursday's staff meeting, not before 11 a.m. and not after 3 p.m. We've gotten our HIV testing technology down to 1 minute, yet confirmatory tests still take 2 weeks. I need to get an appointment with my doctor, and once I get to the doctor's office, I'm waiting a minimum of 2 hours to see the doctor. EDs of agencies befuddled because where they once were effective are now ineffective. Yeah, they run into D.C., but not to advocate for us, but to advocate to find out what new money is coming down the pipe. Well, let me just go ahead and give you the moral of the story, because we got to figure out what Dorothy, the Scarecrow, and the Tin Man and the Lion are going to do. The moral of the story was simply in the Book of Baum. It said that although Dorothy was placed in a strange land, it was her personal journey and character growth and her willingness to look past her own needs and see the needs of others that she found a home within herself. She advocated for others. But there is one more story. One more character that was key to that story. And this is exactly what the church can do here today. What was that character that's still missing? No, not Toto, y'all. Glenda. Watch this. Watch how this preach turns into a preach. Glenda was the good one of the South. And she finally got Dorothy home by telling her the power in her red slippers. Are you from the church, sir? Yes, sir. Yes, sir. I'm talking to you right now. Because this is what the church can do with folk with HIV. If we can just remind folk about the power in their red slippers.
That's right.
If we can remind folk that it was the power in those crimson-colored slippers. If we could just remind folk that crimson was the color of his blood that flowed from his side on Calvary's cross. If you, sir, could take back to the spiritual leadership here at this church, that if the church could just get some folk with HIV, cancer, substance abuse, mental health, whatever they is going through, and just walk them through the blood. Those with HIV, cancer, substance abuse, and mental health issues. I don't need you to do tests. I don't need you to do no condom distribution. But just remind folks that there's power in the blood. I'm not much of a singer, y'all, but I heard my grandmother say that there's power, one that's working power in the blood. One that's working power in the precious blood of the Lamb. We need to understand that that same power is here with us today. That because the power got the Scarecrow back to the Emerald City. The power got the Tin Man back to the land of weakness. The power got the Lion to a nearby forest where they were made rulers of their own land. The power made them rulers in their land. Let me share with you that a tornado warned in a bulletin on February 25th. At 10:31, it was a Wednesday if I remember, the National Weather Service in Atlanta issued a tornado warning for my house. Said it was going to hit Stone Mountain in DeKalb County. It said that the tornado may develop at any time. Doppler radar showed this dangerous storm moving north at 40 miles an hour. Locations impacted would include my home, my work, my family, school, and even my church. But Minister A.J. Evans gave me a precautionary and preparedness action plan. He said, take cover now and move to an interior room. And it'd be best if you could find a closet and get real low to the floor. He said, if you can't find a closet, then move to the closest substantial shelter and protect yourself from flying debris. Like shame, like blame, like guilt, like depression, fear, and even insults from others. He said that even when the winds blow, I want you to remember that through the storms, keep on raging in your life. And sometimes it's hard to tell night from day. Still that hope that lies within is reassured as you keep your eyes upon the distant shores. You need to know that he'll lead you safely to a blessed place that he has prepared. But if the storms don't cease and the winds keep on blowing in your life, understand that your soul has been anchored in the Lord. Remember and realize that sometimes in life, people, that we're going to be tossed by the waves and currents that seem so fierce. But in the Word of God, we've got an anchor. Oh yes, we've got an anchor that keeps us steadfast, unmovable, despite the tide. But if the storms don't cease and the winds keep on blowing in your life, understand that your soul has been anchored in the Lord. Beloved, I'm here today to ask you to stand with me in the midst of a storm. But be warned that God is not looking for storm watchers. God is looking for storm chasers. And understand that a storm watcher sits and waits until the storm passes over. But a storm chaser hears the warning, gets up, and goes after the storm. Understanding that tornadoes are only seen when the climate changes drastically down here, which means that the atmosphere had to change up there. I'm only talking to prayer warriors now. In order to change the climate down here, we got to change the atmosphere up there. For what we bind on earth shall be bound in heaven. And what is loose in heaven shall be loosed on earth. For what the devil meant to harm me, God used to deliver me. If I remember the witness told us that in order to tap into the power, you got to close your eyes and focus on home. Somewhere over the rainbow, way up high, there's a land that heard of once in a lullaby. Somewhere over the rainbow, skies are blue, and the dreams that you dare to dream really do come true. Someday wish upon a star and wake up where the clouds are far behind me, where troubles melt like lemon drops away above the chimney tops. That's where you'll find me, somewhere over the rainbow. Bluebirds fly. Birds fly over the rainbow. Then why, oh why can I? Glenda told Darcy, in order to tap into the power, click your heels. Click your heels 3 times. 1 for the Father, 1 for the Son, and 3 for the Holy Ghost. Come on the first click, I didn't hear nothing. On the second click, there came a rumbling from somewhere. But on the third click, there was a transformation of body, mind, and soul. Now where I thought HIV had me, I now have HIV. 360, providing education and awareness to the scarecrows, prevention and outreach with the tin mans, and doing advocacy and action with the lions. And when my eyes opened, I may have had HIV, but HIV didn't have me. All years now, still undetectable. CD4 count higher than it's ever been in my entire life. Feeling fine, looking fine. Look at the wonderful word of God. Now before I take my seat, I saw some of y'all looking at my robe. I was going to put it on this morning,
That's all right.
but I don't put it on Saturdays. I put it on Sundays. I need y'all to take a real good look at it. Because you notice that it's slate to gray. See, God said, don't get the black robe with the white collar. I need you to get a slate gray robe. Because slate is the color of rock.
Yes.
And upon this rock I shall build my church.
All right now.
He said that across the heart you need to go ahead and put HIV ribbon and the scales for social justice.
All right.
Put it on the backdrop of the cross because that's where HIV and social justice is.
All right now.
On my heart and on the backdrop of the cross. In the back. Can you just turn that around for me, love? In the back. There's 3 pleats. 3 pleats. Again, one for the Father, one for the Son, and one for the Holy Ghost. But you notice in the 3 pleats there's 6 creases. And in each crease there's fabric of King and Abernathy and Williams and Young and Lowry and Shaw. That if you notice the stitch, it's cross stitch. Because God told me it's going to have to be by any means necessary.
All right.
I rolled up the sleeves because I wasn't trying to be fashionable, but he said you need to roll them up because there's work to do. I need you to just turn it around one more time to the front and notice the collar. They call that a wingtip collar for the fashionable in the room. That's a wingtip collar. But again, not to be fashionable, but I just needed 2 wings to veil my face. 2 wings to veil my feet. And 2 wings to go ahead and fly away so this whole world wouldn't do me no harm. If you notice in the front, there's a breakaway. And the breakaway is simply because we got to do what the psalmist Michael Jackson told us to do in his song. That's why there's a breakaway. He said, pick up your left foot when your right foot is down. Keep your legs moving so you don't lose no ground. Don't you give up walking, folk, because you gave up your shoes. But just keep on easing on down the road. See, the church would say, I got a race to run, and I'm running by faith. Don't you carry nothing that might be a load. Just ease on down the road. On Sunday morning, they say that he is your burden bearer and your load sharer. Because there may be times when you think you done lost your mind. And the steps you're taking leave you 3, 4, 5 steps behind. But the road you're walking may be long sometimes. But just keep on stepping and you'll just be fine. My grandmother would say, it ain't good to know if you take 1 step that God will allow you to take 2. Ease on down the road. Don't carry nothing that might be a load. Just continue to ease on down the road. For there may be times when you wish you wasn't born. And you wake one morning and you find your courage gone. But you know that feeling only lasts a little while? Just stick with us and we'll show you how to smile. And my great-grandmother Mima would say that your weeping may endure for a night, but your joy comes in the morning light. So my brothers and sisters, when you find yourself all by yourself, just click your heels 3 times. God bless you.